Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. My friends, just a few days ago, Disney threw a Hail Mary pass and did their absolute best to gaslight us all into believing Snow White wasn't a massive failure by having their hand-picked critics flood X with a shitload of insanely over-the-top rave reviews. These shills would have us believe that Snow White was a triumph, that it fought the culture wars and won, that Rachel Zegler was a supernova of talent with a voice gifted from the gods, and all the hatred showered on this production was completely unjustified. And don't we all look stupid for doubting the genius of Disney in making their very bestest live-action remake ever? Judging by these raving, frothing-at-the-mouth reviews posted all over X, Snow White had put all us istophobe chud haters in our place with its fabulousness. And yet, oh dear, apparently not, folks. Oh, apparently not. Because it looks like Snow White is exactly what we thought it was all along. A complete and total bomb. A messed up, steaming pile of recycled plot threads all mixed up in a tossed salad of woke nonsense, charmless characters, cut and paste plotting, and creeping, everlasting golden hour light flooding the uncanny valley that is Snow White.
Yeah. Funny thing about all those glowing reviews about Snow White being a fun, charming, heartfelt romp? How come we didn't see any of that in the trailers? If Rachel Zegler is so wonderful, how come she comes across as wooden and dreary in the trailers? I know you can't judge a film by its trailer, but shit on a stick. Shouldn't an exploding supernova of talent leave some faint glimmering trace of it in the ads?
Well, Harvey, that's a very good point. When you have a 2-minute trailer that seems dreary, creepy, cringe, and at times just plain sad, that tells us one of two things. Either the editor and the executives approving the trailer were completely incompetent, which can happen, or there simply isn't 2 minutes of wonderful material to be found in the whole damn movie, and judging by the reviews, that's the story here. It's no surprise that Rachel Zegler can sing. We know she can sing. The question is her singing voice, bombastic as it is, suitable for a sweet, charming fairy tale like Snow White? Well, I'll be giving you guys my own review as soon as I can get drunk enough to force myself to sit through this desecration of one of my favorite animated movies of all time. But in the meantime, as a quick survey of theaters demonstrates there are a lot of empty seats to be had for this atrocity, let's all share a laugh over what some key critics are saying about this mess. Snow Woke is currently sitting at between 45% and 47% splat on Rotten Tomatoes, but what's really funny are what Rotten Tomatoes considers the positive reviews. Let's take a look at some of the so-called positive and negative reviews here, shall we? Al Alexander, Movies Through the Spectrum, says, "It looks scrumptious, offers tasteful depictions of the Seven Dwarfs, and features an outstanding turn by Rachel Zegler in the title role. Yet, it remains a bit of a slog, at least for adults who know the Grimm brothers' tale by rote."
And that's a positive one.
Well, it's a round, ripe-looking tomato there, Harvey. Juanma Fernandez Paris says the creative team behind Snow White focuses much more on correcting the outdated elements of the first film rather than celebrating the magic that still endures. So in other words, it's laden with agenda and isn't terribly charming. That's a positive review. Frank Switek, One Guy's Opinion, says struggles to turn the admittedly dated 1937 film into a modern parable of female empowerment. It's far from the worst of these Disney redos, but nowhere near as much fun as its predecessor. Dana Hahn Klein says, well, If nightmarish CG dwarven polycules are your thing, boy howdy is there a film for you in the form of the creatively bankrupt live-action remake of Snow White. It made us wish we had our own poison apple to eat instead of watching.
Whack goes the pinata.
Exactly, whack goes the pinata. Nicholas Bell, Fish Jelly Films, says the only positive outcome for Snow White, Disney's latest live-action reimagining of its classic animated catalog, would be if it inspired a moratorium on such blatant consumerist film studio pursuits. And that right there is the crux of it. That is why I've been so upset all along. Look, I just love the old movies. I don't want a whole generation of kids to have their first exposure to Snow White be this sad, derivative, corporate piece of shit. That's the whole point. If they would just stop these desecrations, that's all I ask. Is that so much to ask?
Apparently so, man. They are just that greedy.
And that short-sighted. My God, they're just spoiling their legacy, and they don't even seem to care. If Snow White ends this destructive trend, well, hallelujah, it will be the silver lining on this particularly dark and sad little cloud. Mark Jusik says, this film revels in its smaller pleasures, and that's a fresh review. Lee McCoy of Drum Dums says, Disney's Snow White continues the trend of bland Disney remakes. This barely gets a pass for the brisk pacing, the entertainment value in the two leads. The CGI dwarves are the stuff of nightmares, though. This is a positive review on Rotten Tomatoes. Richard Krause, in a very positive review, says director Mark Webb manages a balance between Snow White's new and old elements, but despite Rachel Zegler's impressive vocal abilities, some lively choreography, and vibrant set design, the result is more ho-hum than hi-ho. Malcolm Cooper says, where the 1937 film reinvented what animation could achieve, this remake's haphazard blending of live action, mechanical storytelling, and revolting CGI generates weary discomfort over genuine enchantment. James Mottram says, more bland than brave. This corporate-sanctioned, committee-made children's film does not come close to achieving the classic status afforded its animated predecessor. David Poland says, I don't hate the movie. I was deeply frustrated with the movie. Nowhere more than with the screenplay. It felt like 3 or 4 movies having what people saw as its best parts slammed together. The little kids won't mind.
Oh, suffer the little kids. Take them to Snow White, and they will suffer.
Dark Sky Lady of Nerdist says, with an uneven combination of forgettable music, bland choreography, and few genuine laughs, Snow White fails to find and maintain its footing. Jonathan Itkonen says, this is a film that tries very hard to not take risks or even acknowledge that risks exist. The result is a hodgepodge of awful CGI, contrived new songs, and a story full of plot and lacking in substance. Tara Brady of the Irish Times says, the most distracting flaws are rooted in the problematic recreation of animated material. The permanent magic hour lighting is hard to look at. Worst of all, the decision to cartoonize the dwarves alongside human actors is hugely problematic. Nicholas Barber has one of my favorite positive reviews here. Says, the story is cluttered, the tone is muddled, and the pacing is off. Again, that doesn't make the film a disaster. In some ways, the identity crisis is what makes it worth seeing.
In other words, everyone loves a train wreck.
Everyone loves a jumbled, steaming wreck. It just kind of brightens your day knowing that, you're not in that train wreck, or, in the case of Snow White, you dodged a bomb by not going to see it. Johnny Oleksinski of the New York Post says, the timeless classic, a groundbreaking achievement for animation, has been turned into another pointless and awkward live-action automaton that vanishes from your mind the second it's over. Yeah, it doesn't sound too good, does it? Mike Massey of Gone with the Twins says, despite the intermittent sequences that work, and ignoring the many that don't, this film continually questions its own identity, struggling to answer why it needs to exist. This is what I have said from the start. My God, this was totally unnecessary. This is a self-owned by Disney that will go down in the history books once the box office results come in. David Fear of Rolling Stone says, this Snow White may not be the worst live-action adaptation of an animated touchstone, though it's a strong contender for its blandest. The movie does earn points as a bedtime story, however, because it will definitely put you to sleep. Adam Naiman of the Toronto Star says there's nothing magical in Mark Webb's movie, but it nevertheless feels uncanny. Spending $250 million to make a film in which absolutely nothing works is a kind of dark art in and of itself. Clarice Laure of The Independent says, with Snow White, they've finessed their formula. Do the bare minimum to make a film, then simply slap a bunch of cutesy CGI animals all over it and hope no one notices. Clarice rated this 1 out of 5 stars. I said it all along. Sick and tired of studios just going back to the well again, draining it dry, and ruining everything that came before with shoddy, slapdash, cynical money grab remakes and desecrations of classic movies. There are a lot of kids who are first going to be exposed to Snow White through this piece of shit, and that is a crime against those poor kids. Everyone knows you shouldn't starve a child of food, but it's equally criminal to starve a child of imagination and joy. This weekend, go show your kids Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the animated classic. They'll thank you later on down the line. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.